Hello guys, how are you? How are you doing? How are you feeling? It is 7 a.m. and I am here to film probably the hardest video, or one of the hardest videos I'll ever have to film on my channel, but I know it's a necessary one and it's something that I literally just need to get out because I'm sick and tired of acting like my life is normal, like I'm normal, like I'll ever be normal, because I won't. And this is the reason why. I just have like last night's makeup and I threw on some lipstick, so if I look like a dead person, that's probably why. But we're gonna get into the story of my life with a abusive father. So I'm gonna try to go in order. I don't have any specific plan for this video. It's all up here, you know, like I have been through a lot of traumatic experiences with this subject and it's kind of all over the place in my head, but I do remember the sequential order of events. However, I know they will, each one might remind me of a different time and I might jump back and forth, so just bear with me, but you'll basically get the gist of what my life was like growing up with a very violent and aggressive dad. So my very first and most early experiences with my dad's aggression and violence was mainly towards my brothers and my mom. When I was in Venezuela, I was still in diapers. Like, my earliest memory of this is literally seeing my mom on the floor crying one day after my dad had left us. I didn't know this was going on at the time because I was so little. I was literally like 2 or 3, but I still remember this to this day. I was running around in my diapers and I just caught a glimpse of my mom in a corner of a closet crying. And I knew she had just had an altercation with my dad. They had just gotten in a fight and he had just left. And I just remember looking at her and seeing how upset she was, seeing how broken she was, and just asking, "Did he hit you?" And she just shook her head no. Fortunately for my mother, although she was still abused by my dad, it was never physically. It was always emotionally and mentally and just verbally and all of that. But it was still really bad. During the same time, from the age of 0 to 5 or 6, I was living in Venezuela. My dad was really rough on my brothers. I was still too young, I guess, to experience this, but my brothers got it really bad. When they got in trouble, they would get like beat up. He would get a belt, he would get anything in his hand to like hit them, and I would always remove myself from the situation. I was little, I didn't know. What I learned in my home that was normal as a young age, I thought, oh, they're in trouble now, they're gonna get beat up. Like, that was normal at the time. I remember one specific time I felt extremely guilty because it was kind of my fault. You know, I was little. I was, like I said, I was 3 or 4 at this point. I was really little, and what we would do when we had power outages in our house was light a bunch of candles. We didn't have any flashlights, but we did have candles, so we lit candles. And I remember every time the light would come back on, my brother and I did this game where we would blow out all the candles and sing happy birthday, just like a fun little thing that we did. And one of these times that we sang happy birthday, I blew out the candle so hard, and my brother was holding it in front of me, and I blew it out just like like so hard that the wax literally flew off of the candle and went on my brother and like literally burnt him. So he just screamed bloody murder. Like, he was like, ah! And my dad came running down the stairs, and my dad was very paranoid at the time. He did own a gun. We did have a lot of home invasions that I wasn't even aware about at the time, but he would kind of chase the people off, or like, I still don't know to this day what would happen, but like, my dad was always really on, you know, defense about that kind of stuff. So he thought something was happening, and because it wasn't that was happening, he was so angry. He was livid, like to the point that he took it out on my brother. Like, he was like, "I thought someone was in here, how dare you scream like that?" And I remember him grabbing my brother by the arm, taking him all the way up the stairs, and I just remember hearing boom, 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 and screaming and crying and just like a mess. And I just stood there like, this is my fault. Like, I did that. So that was some of the first times. I do remember a lot of my feelings being suppressed at this age. If I cried, it was very looked down upon. Like, you should only cry if there's something like tragic happening. So, and as a child, like, you cry for a lot of things, but my dad was very like, if you keep crying, it started with threats. If you keep crying, you'll see what happens. Watch what happens. And this Like, I'm still to this day, it petrifies me. Like, I'm traumatized by it because you had to watch your every single move, everything you did. You had to be so careful because you didn't know when you were gonna piss him off. So that's how it started for me. I don't remember much of if he did hit me. I don't remember much of it in Venezuela, like from the ages of 0 to 6, but I know in the States it was bad. Like, when we should have been at our best, because we lived in Florida and we, you know, went to Disney and we had all these like wonderful things happening to us. Went to Disney, went to Universal, did all the cute like little family things, but he was still always so controlling, so protective, so like the way he fought, because he didn't have a conversation with anyone. He fought and he yelled and he screamed and he lectured, and it went on for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, where you would literally, like, his head would start getting big as I stare at him, because if you look away, that's disrespectful. You gotta look at him when he's talking to you. Like, I would get dizzy. I would think I was gonna pass out by like how angry he would get, and like I would get kicked, I would get punched, I would get my hair pulled, I would get slapped, I would get the belt. I have a diary from the States. I only have one entry on here that kind of goes into it a little bit. I think I went into this diary at a different point in my channel where I did some memories. This is my imaginary friend when I was little, but I have some stuff here that I didn't show because it involves me venting about this kind of stuff. And I actually started this diary, it's so old, like it's like coming apart. But I started it in Florida and continued it in Montreal. So in Montreal was when it really started getting like really bad. So you can see here I wrote entry in my diary and I bookmarked it so I would remember that I literally documented this when it happened because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. I was scared to tell anyone about it. All I knew was diaries, and I don't know if anyone ever went through my diaries, like if my parents or my brothers did, but like I'm surprised because if my dad would have gone through this, he would have definitely ripped these pages out. But I'm just gonna read off this situation that happened. So it's dated August 12th, 2004. I believe. Titled Terrible Day. Today, it was a sad day. The sun was not out. I was in the balcony, even though I knew my parents had told me not to go to the balcony no more. My writing is very funny in here because I was trying to remember my English from Florida while I was speaking French in Montreal. But yeah, so we had a rule. If you guys have ever been to Montreal, or if you don't know about Montreal, basically every apartment building has like an emergency exit balcony slash stairs that you can go down. Like apart from the main stairs where you go in the lobby, there's like some steel like back stairs. It's kind of like ghetto, but I like to go on there because it was fresh air and whatever. But we weren't supposed to be out if my parents weren't home because again, my dad was very protective. He was very controlling. Like, didn't matter if I was, how old would I have been? I would have been in grade 5. I was in the balcony and they had told me not to go on the balcony no more, but I didn't even care. So suddenly a woman and a man come walking holding hands. I wondered who they were so I could see them from the balcony. I remember this like it was yesterday. And then I thought harder and looked closer. In a minute, I said, "Oh." I quickly get in the house and wait a while. And then I go to the balcony for my last time and I look down. Why would I go inside and then go back out? Oh my gosh. I don't know, but apparently that's what happened. I see my parents and laugh like a mouse, like if I was playing with my dad, and then they look up and see me. My dad quickly stops walking and points at me, and at the same time says, "Get in now." So this is him from downstairs. They had just come in from grocery shopping, so they had just gotten off the bus. The bus stop was around the corner, and then he saw me. So he's like, "Get in now." He had seen me. Then I go to my room and get all the stuff that were on my bed and put them on the floor because I knew he was gonna beat me. Finally, he comes in my room and yells at me, "What the were you doing in the balcony?" I didn't respond. He quickly goes to my window and closes the curtains. And he yells again, "What the do you think you were doing in the balcony?" And he punches me in the right arm and I fall on my bed face down. Then he hits my back like 3 times and leaves my room and heads to my brother's room. He starts yelling a lot of stuff like, "And did you hear me? I told you not to let her." Then he yells in the middle of the house, "Everyone to bed," which means everyone go to sleep. He comes back to my room and tells me, "I hope you won't do this again, and don't say anything." Or, I think I meant to say, "and I don't say anything." He quickly lifts his hand up and does something as if he was going to hit me. I quickly say, "No, no." At the second time I said no, I closed my eyes, hardly because I thought he was really gonna hit me. He leaves the room and finally doesn't hit me again. Then my mom comes in to pick up my mess and looks at me, and I do too. Like, I look at her too. And she shows me some body language. I put does a sign, but like she shakes her head no while she's looking at me. We had to sleep all the way to the next morning. And this happened like in the middle of the day, but he literally sent everyone to their rooms to sleep. Well, I didn't really sleep, and if I did, even just a little bit, I didn't remember, or it's just that I slept bad. I was still crying in the night. And the other day I wake up and look at my pillow, and my pillow was all wet because of all the tears I let fall in the night. The end. So that was one scenario that took place in Montreal, like I said, where my dad just lost it and resorted to hitting and screaming and yelling and just could not control his anger. This wasn't the only time this happened in Montreal, but I know that was one of the times that it stuck with me, because I think it might have actually been the first time he full-on like punched me with a fist, whereas before he would like more like slap me around and pull my hair and stuff like that. But the cycle of abuse started very quickly, and there wasn't any sign of stopping for the next couple years. I have another diary. So this one is dated October 7th, 2006. Gee, did I ever up today. I was about to finally go to the mall with, this is one of my friends from elementary school, but my dad took like an hour to get ready as usual, so I went and asked him if mom and me could walk home on our way back, since he had to work at 3 and we had until 2 p.m. to go to the mall. But instead of just saying no, he just flips and makes such a big deal out of it, which makes him scream at my mom and makes her cry. I hate when my parents fight because of me. I cried for hours in my room and then got sleepy. That's one story. This one is October 15th, 2006. This isn't too long after the last one. It's called Pretty Crappy Day. The above says it all. Today was full of crap. All day, I was panicking and rushing through my stereotype project. I guess that's what I was working on at the time. All day I was thinking about how much fun everyone was having at birthday party sleepover and how I couldn't go. I wanted to go so bad, especially for all the food and makeovers. I guess that's what's gonna happen. God. And today I started going out with great. Just great. So I'm just talking about like school drama, you know, girl things. But then my dad pulled my hair so strong while he was crawling on the floor when his friend knocked on the door, and he didn't want to answer. He pulled my hair because I was like, ah, Dad, when he was crawling on the floor. But hello, how am I supposed to not get scared? So I guess a friend, I remember this too. I don't remember it in detail, but I do remember that a friend came to knock on the door, a friend of my dad's, and he didn't want to answer the door. But instead of just not answering the door, he was like crawling around like an idiot on the floor, and I kind of walked into him crawling around on the floor, so I was like, ah, Dad. And since I literally said like, Dad, and he was trying to hide from this person, he like pulled my hair, yanked hair out. Like, I remember there was literally hair in his hand after he pulled it because I messed up his entire plan. And it's like, really? There were many more times that I was beat by my dad. There was many more times where he punched me, he pulled my hair, he kicked me, he pushed me, like everything, you name it, he did it. And some of you might say that I should have stood up for myself and I should have done something, but when you're that scared of someone, you feel powerless and you get made to feel like you are just the worst person ever for whatever it is you made them mad for. He would yell at me, like I said, for hours on end, and he was a lawyer back home. So try talking back to a lawyer. It's very difficult. He was very manipulative. He was very insulting and degrading the way he talked to me. There was one time I got in trouble for something in high school. I don't know what it was. I think they finally found out I was like skipping class or something, because obviously stuff like this like leads to rebellion later on, because if all the consequence you're getting is getting beat, you're gonna want some kind of freedom and some kind of relief from real life, and I only was able to get that when I didn't go to class. I wasn't really allowed to hang out with many people. If I was, like, they would have to come over, and I just lived that way. So I think when he found out I was skipping class, he started, you know, pulling my hair and slapping me around. I remember there was like red handprints on like all over my body, on my back especially. He like would just, It felt like he was whipping me, like he was hitting me so hard. Eventually he did grow out of hitting me with a belt and would just use his hands. I know that there was a point that he knew what he was doing was affecting me. And I think this point was one day when he had just beat me. I was gonna get in the shower because I just wanted, like, the shower still to this day to me is my safe haven. It is the only place I can be safe. It is the only place I can be away from everything, and I always take like hour-long showers to just like breathe and relax and take time for myself and get away from everything, because that's what I did for a long time when things like this were happening. But this time around, I think he could tell I wasn't just upset, I was angry. I was seeing the unfairness, you know, as you grow older, you know that this is not the way you should be being treated. And he would say things to me like, I don't care if you call the police, because he knew I was fully capable of picking up the phone and doing that. But before I go to jail for what I'm doing to you, because of what you did, I'm gonna kill you. So that's what I was told. Whenever I thought of getting help, whenever I thought of any kind of rescue mission for what was happening to me in my home life, there was that threat. So that fear doesn't allow you to really think realistically and fight or flight. Like, I couldn't fight and I couldn't flight because I couldn't talk back. It was never a conversation. Like I said, it was always him just yelling at me, and if I ever even said anything, it was talking back, and it would be like, don't talk while I'm talking, or like, look at me when I'm talking to you. Like, it was always very like, still to this day, I have not officially diagnosed, but it was mentioned by a therapist of mine that I may have some sort of PTSD when it comes to yelling, because I have had it in the past where people yell something at me and they're not necessarily being aggressive, or what's the word? Like, they're not necessarily saying something negative, but they yell like anything. Oh, be careful with that! Or like anything that's like a yell, I just freeze. I shut down completely, because I've done that for so many years with my dad. From him yelling at me, I just had to freeze and say nothing and just sit there, and it like messed me up when it comes to yelling. So like, I really, I may be a loud person, I may be out there, but like, if you yell at me, that's one way to get me to shut up, because I will just freeze and shut down. But back to what I was saying, the first time I knew that he understood the consequences of what he was doing was a day that he, like I said, had just beat me, and I was gonna go get in the shower, and he didn't let me. He pulled me out of the bathroom, pulled me by the hair and by the arm, threw me on my bed, and was like, no, you're not showering, you're staying here in your room and not doing anything. Because I feel like part of him could see right through me, and I feel like he knew how upset I was and how his actions could lead to something very, very serious, like the idea of taking my own life, which was a thought I had in my head many times, especially when he would act this way towards me, because I felt stuck in a situation like that. Like, you have no power, you live with this person, you live under their roof, so that's what he would always say, it's you're living under my roof, it's my rules. Sometimes that's where my mind went. The only way out of this is like taking my own life, and the only way I felt I could get away with that was in the shower or like in a bath. I don't want to specify and go into detail, but basically, yeah, he knew that it was affecting me mentally, but it still continued, which I think is really messed up. Another time I can pinpoint is, I don't remember what it was that happened. My parents got really upset about something, and they were actually going to send me back home. They were going to send me back to Venezuela to live with my grandma, because they said, this country is garbage, like, this country is gonna ruin you guys. And I don't remember what exactly happened. I honestly don't know how it led to this, but like, literally all my friends thought I was leaving. Like, I didn't go to school for a month because I was literally packing up my life. Like, this was my grade 12. I was 17, and my parents were, and when I say my parents, I really don't want you guys to think that my mom was ever involved in any of the abuse, because my mom has always been the nurturing parent, and that's why I'm like, that's my best friend, that's my everything. I love my mother, and she would never do to me the things my dad did to me, and she would never put me down the way he did. I remember part of it was also like, he didn't think I was smart, and he didn't think I was gonna make it anywhere, and instead of inspiring me and motivating me, like, he always just put me down and would say that I wasn't smart enough and that I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. And that really got to me a lot of times. Like, I was like, yeah, maybe I can't do like anything, maybe I won't amount to anything. If my own dad thinks that, what will other people think? And that's a really dangerous mindset, because then that affects your self-esteem. And a lot of my high school years, as you guys know if you saw my 3 years hiding my body video, I did have a lot of self-esteem issues from being skinny and being picked on in school and all of that. Basically, yeah, I was packing up my life to move back home for whatever reason. They didn't want me to have contact with a lot of my friends. They thought they were bad influences. They thought this and that. It really wasn't as serious as they thought it was. Like, yeah, my friends were a little mischievous, but it was nothing like out of this world. Like, it was typical teenager stuff. But one day, had like only a couple days left that my parents were saying they were gonna fly me back home, and I really wanted to see my best friend. And I had gone over to her place one of the times because we wanted to take photos together. That was our favorite thing to do. We would stay home and do photo shoots. Like, girls do Instagram photo shoots now, but not back then. We would do photo shoots that would probably never make it out to the public eye. It was just like for our own fun. It was like playing dress up. Put on heels and dresses and be all cute as if we were going somewhere, but we weren't. We just wanted to see what like different outfits of ours look like. So we would like literally play dress up as grown-ass 17-year-olds. I mean, we were still kids, right? But anyway, so we did that. I had a bunch of my stuff at her house that I had to pick up. So in order to do this and in order to see her before I left the country, I was working at a Asian buffet at the time, and so I told my parents that I was gonna go to work, and I pretended to go to work, but I actually went to my friend's house. I don't know how they figured out that like I wasn't being honest, because they literally went to my work and they didn't find me there. So they knew where I was, like they knew my best friend and they knew where she lived and everything, and they didn't like her because they found out that she smoked cigarettes. But basically, as I'm gathering my belongings from my friend's house and she's gifting me some of her stuff because she's like, you'll use this more than I will in Venezuela and all of this, like she was so sweet, my dad shows up to her house to pick me up, and I just about shit my pants. Like, I was so scared. I knew he was gonna be so mad. Like, I'm hanging out with someone he doesn't like, I'm caught in a lie, like I'm not at work, and he found out where I was. And this was, honestly, it's funny to me now, but at the time it was just so unfair and so like, what? This is when I realized how crazy my dad really was. But basically, picked me up, threw me in the car, and was yelling at me the whole way home, just like, wait till we get home. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get it so bad. When I come out, I have my bags of belongings, and he's like pushing me and pulling my hair and hitting me all the way up our apartment complex. And one of those times he hit me so hard, like he kicked me in the back while I was going up the stairs, and I fell up the stairs, and all my stuff, oh, I kind of made a noise with these bookmarks. I'm like fidgeting from this subject, but all my stuff spilled out of my bags, and he saw that it was heels and like dresses and skirts and stuff like that. And this man literally lost it when he saw what was in my bags. He was like, what the is that what you were doing? Are you a prostitute? And he literally started calling me like this. He could have sworn that's what I was doing. Like, he was calling me a prostitute. He was calling me every name in the book. He started beating me like 10 times harder. It was insane. Like, and a lot of these things my mom didn't agree with. Like, any of these things, because she knew that violence was not the answer. Like, I think that was one of the times that really hurt her, how much he was willing to physically harm me, because I like literally fell up these like metal stairs. And she knew me. She knew who I was, and she knew I would never go out and like sell myself. Like, so he got this crazy idea in his head, and he said, hell no, I'm not sending you back home to your grandma. You're gonna give her headaches, you're gonna give her so many problems. So after missing a month of school in grade 12 on my last semester, he sent me back to school, and I basically failed all my classes and had to do a 5th year. So that was fun. And I'm sorry if I'm saying this a little lightly, but it's the only way I can say it and not be like awkward about it, because it's so messed up. But the only other time I remember this happening is all the way up till I was 18, when I was really just trying to get out of there. Like, I was, as my therapist would say, I was in survival mode. I was just trying to figure out how to get out, how to spend as much time away from home, because I didn't want to be around that behavior, that violence, that abuse. But when I was 18, I was seeing this boy, and I just so happened to, I wasn't allowed to sleep over anywhere. Like I said, I wasn't really allowed to go anywhere. I always lied about where I was, but if I want to see a boy, I'm going to see a boy, right? So I went over and I ended up sleeping there. And yeah, when I got home, sure enough, my mom always tried to help me and hide my dog, because she always barked when anyone would get home. So she would like grab my dog by the mouth so she wouldn't bark. No, my dad knew. He was awake by the time I got home that morning, and he just, again, yanked out my hair, punched me, slapped me, like just I feel like a broken record just saying like the amount of times he did this to me, but like what gets me right now is the fact that like my parents split, and he has a new life now. Like he would, it's so ironic because some of the times he would be yelling at me and really upset about something. He would just say like, I just want to leave and get the out of here and just get another family, and just say stuff like that. And now he's with this new woman that like has kids, and he talks about them, and I'm like, I don't want any part in this. Like, all that comes back to me is the past, and he acts like the victim now and tries to just say like, you're playing victim and you have to get over the past, and just, that's basically like me telling him how I feel, because we're on good terms now. Surprisingly, I've worked so hard to be on good terms with my dad after all the damage he's done, but like he, I don't think till this point still gets the fact that like you can't just get over stuff like that. It is mentally traumatizing, like medically. I have anxiety now, like it's for a reason. This isn't just developed out of nowhere. It's obviously because of early experiences in my life that were caused by all the abuse. And I'm done feeling like it was my fault. I'm done pretending like I'm the one that's has something wrong with her, when really this was all caused by someone who took having children for granted and did a really bad job of it. I'm sorry to say, but like I still respect him to this day, and I still love him to this day, and he tried his best, and I just feel bad for him. Like, I don't blame him for any of this, and I don't want him to seem like the bad guy, but I want him to get help, and I want him to be a better person and realize what he did, and realize that that's not going away. It's not going away from me, it's not going away from my mom, and it's not going away from my brothers. We lived like that for years, and the stuff we had to live through, you can't just erase that. That's literally in our brains. Like, it messed us up. And I know I at least have worked so hard on myself and so hard on my self-esteem and my independence, and to this day it's even problematic how independent I am, because I can't see myself other than like for me. Like, what I'm doing is for me and me alone, and like I'm literally just a survivor of this life that I've been given, and it's so hard for me to not see it that way because of the way I was raised and because of the things I went through and how I had to get out of that on my own and figure everything out on my own, work hard for everything I have, everything I own, I've gotten myself. Like, I have just, so when I'm happy and I seem cocky or confident or whatever you want to call it, I don't want anyone to think that it's coming from a place of narcissism or self-centeredness. It is literally something I've worked so hard for so many years, after feeling like a nobody, like a piece of dirt on the floor who was just made to be abused and taken advantage of. And I'm making this video for those of you who may relate or may know someone who can relate. I don't want experiences like this to define anyone, because I didn't let it define me. I beat the odds of how someone who goes through abuse like that would typically end up. I saw it as like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want it to be part of my identity. Of course, it's part of my habits, I guess you would say, and like paranoias and different little boundaries that I have with myself and with other people, because I can't help that. It's really hard for me to trust people and to really let them in and really be vulnerable, because I've felt vulnerable what feels like most of my life up until a couple years ago when I completely got out of that. And at the end of the day, all I've had is me. Of course my mom's been there for me, I've had friends there for me, I've had past boyfriends and current boyfriend there for me, but at the end of the day, I've done the work and I've sought the help and I've sought the right people to surround myself with to get past something like that and to not let it affect my life to the point of failure or to the point of like not being myself. That's why I wanted to make this video, and I will be including some resources in the description box down below if you are going through domestic violence, if you are going through child abuse. Like, it is not okay and you can seek help, and I know I could have, but the fear of doing it was what held me back, and I wish I knew better back then, because if anything it would have taught my dad something. It would have given him the reality check he needed. He would have had his intervention of, hey, this is not how you treat human beings, especially ones that you made and you brought into this world. Everyone in the world has the duty of care, the duty of being compassionate and being understanding before they get violent or aggressive, because violence doesn't lead to anything, like, except hurt feelings and trauma and just all the stuff my therapist has been working with me on. But I feel like this video has also served the purpose of my full recovery and healing process for this. I have gotten past a lot of these things on my own and with help, of course, but I feel like this is just closing the chapter of that part of my life and just having it out there. It was very therapeutic for me to talk about. It was obviously painful. It's not easy to just sit here and tell you guys all these things, but I want you to know that I'm human and nothing's perfect and no one in my life is perfect. But I do believe that people can change, and I do believe that people can improve no matter whether they're the perpetrator or the victim. I just want better for this world, and I want better for humanity, and I want people to be kind. More than anything, spread kindness everywhere you go, no matter what, no matter how bad you think someone is of a person. You never know what they're going through. You never know what their life is like behind the scenes. You have no idea, because a lot of people would never know this about me, and even of my dad. Like, people who meet my dad, many of my friends in the past who I've told stories like this have said, like, but he's so nice. And it's like, you just never know what someone's capable of and what some people are capable of going through and surviving, because that's how I see myself, to be honest. Like, I see myself as a survivor, and maybe that's why I have so much motivation and drive to do what I want to do in my life and love what I do, because I've hated so much of my life for so long, and I don't want that for myself anymore. I want to build the life I want, and part of that is YouTube, and I hope that this dark chapter can be closed now once and for all, that it's out there into the world. But yeah, that's the truth about my childhood, about my abusive dad. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means the world to me that you guys listen. If you're still here, this was probably a really long video for you to watch, but trust me when I say every single word of it I had to say. And if you need someone to talk to, I'm here. There's help. Well, like I said again, list it down below in the description box. You don't have to put up with stuff like this, and there is support out there for people going through abuse. I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, or if you got something out of it, if you learned something from it, share it with a friend, give it a big thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already, because it is free. And I will see you guys next time.